Ostrander, director of The Haircut, and Maggie Mark, director of Unbound. And for those who just joined us, I'm Gina Reyes. I'm a development executive, historian, but I used to run the Fox Directors Program, and that's how I know these ladies. So welcome. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, great. It's happy
Thanks
to
for
be here.
being
here. Can you talk a little bit about your shorts and what inspired you? What inspired the short?
Sure. So I did Unbound, which was the last film, and what inspired me was that I read a short story written by Karen Russell, who's a New York Times best-selling author, and it was very evocative to me, and I just could really see it, as a film versus just a book. So I immediately set to optioning the material and adapting it to screen.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here, by the way. It's been a fantastic weekend, and congrats to all the other filmmakers. So I used to be a documentary filmmaker. So back in my doc days, I'd done a doc on West Point, and that really was an awesome experience, and I had done it for the History Channel, and I had an amazing resource because my cousin, who's a lieutenant colonel now in the Army, he went to West Point. And so I was constantly picking his brain when I was doing this documentary, and he was stationed over in Rwanda, and we were having these awesome Skype sessions where I just have him tell me anything and everything about West Point. And he told me about this amazing first class of women in 1976, when they first allowed women to go to West Point. And when I was doing that documentary, the showrunner and I had spoken about the first class of women, but it was just sprinkled in. So it was something always in the back of my mind that I wanted to explore. So when I was applying to the AFI Directing Workshop for Women, which was my 4th year of applying before I got in, I had developed the idea with my friend Julia Cox, and it was just something that felt natural when applying to the program because it's, I'm passionate about, women who are trailblazing, and these women were badass in that day, so it was really fun. And I also want to give a shout out to 2 of my producers, Grace and Hillary, who are here, who produced the film back in 2014.
I think you captured that world exactly how it is.
Well, you would know, right?
Yeah. I was in the Navy, and so I was watching that, and I was like, oh my God, I remember those days getting yelled at. I did.
I will say Walter, who was the one doing the yelling, he scared the shit out of me half the time. I'd be at the monitor and be like, oh, I have a note for him, but I gotta go, because he has such a presence, and his father was in the military, so he just channeled everything.
I'm sure. So both of you went through the Ryan Murphy HAP initiative. Can you tell us about your experience and what you learned and how you benefited from it? Maggie, do you want to start?
So I shadowed on the show Feud. I was on episode number 4, and it was a fantastic experience. I shadowed director Liza Johnson, and for me, I think the benefit was that this was her first episode of television. She had done the pilot for Amazon's Good Girls Revolt, and it was really a wonderful opportunity for me to journey with someone who was really doing their first episode of television, and kind of see it all through her eyes, and really, in a way, I felt like I could really imagine myself in the situation more, given that we were a little bit closer in proximity than maybe someone who had been really seasoned. But she did a fantastic job, and I know she's doing more episodes for you guys on other shows, and we've continued to stay in contact. So that was a wonderful experience. Beyond just my working relationship with Liza, I also got to know the DP, Nelson Craig, who I think is speaking later, and other people on the set, observing them as well as part of the shadowing opportunity, I think was really a benefit. And Tanase, who did such an amazing job really curating this program for all of us, he also set up meetings with the heads of current at Fox and FX. So I had some great meetings and started to make some great relationships with other people in the industry to hopefully get my first episode of some television show soon. So yeah, it was great.
Awesome. I'm going to repeat everything she says because this program rocks. I shadowed Nelson Craig, who she actually mentioned. He is phenomenal, and it was his first episode of TV, and I shadowed him on American Horror Story. First episode of TV as a director. He's a badass director of photography as well, on top of being a fantastic director. So that was life-changing. I really feel what was great about this program was really being paired with a mentor who had the same sensibility and visual style as I did as a storyteller. So I was able to see how he approached it visually and how he really got in with the actors and how he worked with his crew. It was really life-changing. And I dorkily had a little notebook that I took everywhere with me. And I would write all of my questions down, and I would hold my questions back until, because I learned like, oh, you know, a day later that question would be answered. So it was really about observing and taking the whole experience. And I had worked for a directing producer early on in my career when I started off as an assistant before I became a documentary filmmaker. But it was different than running and getting coffee. It was there, and you had a chair right behind your mentor, and you got to see them through every step of the process, which was life-changing. And then I got to direct an episode of American Horror Story Roanoke, and I got to put my documentary skills to work, so that was really fun. And developing those relationships through shadowing, I feel really helped prepare me and set me up for success on my first episode. And on top of all the amazing meetings, and I feel we have a support group now through this program to really champion us forward as storytellers, which is excellent.
Yeah, you know, we find that a lot of the directors through the programs have done many different programs. What do you think makes this program extra special? Because it is. Like, you already mentioned everything that you're doing, but there's definitely something special about it. And what do you think, from your perspective, that is?
I mean, I've done 6 programs, so
yeah.
Let's just say I'm a whore for programs. Go out, apply to every single program out there. If you don't get in, just apply again. I said this last night, dorkily, like, I applied 4 times before I got into AFI. I applied 3 times before I got into the Warner Brothers TV Fellowship. I applied like multiple times to NBC, and I've never gotten an interview. ABC, I made it to the, I know, right? Yeah. So they're all great, and being a part of Ryan Murphy's fellowship, like shadowing through prep, production, and post, you see the whole process, which I took a lot. Like, my director's toolkit is heavily influenced by Nelson Craig, so.
Yay, Nelson. Here.
Yeah, stay for the panel at 5. He's fantastic.
Maggie?
So this was my first television program. I did the AFI DWW and also the Fox Filmmakers Lab. And I have shadowed before outside of this program, though. I was an assistant to a showrunner for a number of years, and through that opportunity was able to shadow. And I will say that what I think I have benefited from is just the structure in place. I mean, also being able to be on an episode through the whole process. That hasn't been typical to my experience of shadowing outside of this program, like being a part of prep, all of production, and then also your 4 days in post. So that was a fantastic experience. And then just being a part of the Fox family, you know, getting to know people in the Ryan Murphy world, and then also the people at Fox and FX.
Fox for life, guys.
Yeah.
Woo! Go Fox! Can you guys talk about what you're doing now?
I'd like to start because she's going to go out with a bang here.
Oh, come on.
I don't want to follow her. So this is the first year I've been a full-time freelancer, and that's been an interesting transition for me because it's, you know, really month to month, and it's like, okay, am I really going to be able to do this? Can I pay my rent this month? And so I'm just going to be transparent with you. That's really a hustle every day. And I've been doing a lot of branded content, so that's, you know, where I really make my bread and butter. And then otherwise I have things that I'm developing mostly with David Greenwald, who is the showrunner I used to work with on Grimm. And so, for example, Unbound is a proof of concept for a limited series. It kind of in the vein of Orange is the New Black, where we kind of pop out and we get everybody's stories and it comes to a culmination inside the prison walls. So yeah, lots of stuff going on. There's also another short that I'm actually very much in the process of creating. Oh, I see Mia's here, my actress. Hi, Mia. Which is also, I find myself really drawn to stories that are about transformation and kind of this disturbing beauty. And so it's a short film called 0 to 60, and it's actually based on my brother. When we were in high school, he died, but he survived. He got better. And so it's this accident he got into on the way to school and kind of how that affected his life and my life. And it's just kind of a simple story. So that's me.
Awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, you're rocking it. To be freelance, it's so great, right? That flexibility. But paying the bills definitely comes to mind all the time. Yeah, so since doing the program, which was so life-changing, I ended up signing at CAA, and they have booked me on multiple episodes this fall, which is fantastic. I'm going to be directing 3 episodes of TV, and shout out to Austin and Olivia up there. I'm currently actually in prep on The Arrangement, which is a show on E! So I'm in prep in Vancouver, and I flew down just for this because this program rocks my world. And I fly back tomorrow, and then I start shooting on tonight, and I start shooting on Friday. And then I go and I shadow on Riverdale through the Warner Brothers TV program. And then I go and direct on Shadowhunters, which is on Freeform, and then I'll be directing Riverdale in December. So doing that, and I'm also attached to 2 features, fingers crossed one of them, it's in the process of hopefully getting set up with a company we're really excited about. I just am putting my visual presentation together for the next round. And then just developing. I feel as directors, we also have to create our own content and continue to develop and to continue to find worlds that we're passionate about. So I'm constantly developing with writers and producers just to find that next world I want to explore. So I have 3 projects in development that are in the early stages, which I am really excited about. And I'm going to direct a short in November, which I feel we have to continue as storytellers to expand. They said it on the panel yesterday perfectly. We have to continue to have new work and new material. And I just fell in love with this short that's an adaptation of a Chinese short film, and was approached by these producers with a budget. And they have the rights to the project. And I'm excited to be shooting a short, so looking forward to that as well, just to continue creating.
Awesome. Well, thank you both, and congratulations on everything.